Hey everybody, welcome to DBS Films Podcast. My name is Kellen. With me as always is my brother Brennan. Together we make movies with DBS Films. Today's episode, we're going to give you guys a Q1 update as we have a lot of things in the mix, and basically you guys are just as much part of DBS Films as we are. So we want to keep you informed of what's happening, what we expect to happen, and really give you the inside look at where we're at DBS Films. As always, be sure to take a look at our Discord channel online because that is the place to be, as where you can audition for our movies. We do have an audition live right now, and you still have time to audition, so be sure to check that out. Also, be sure to check out Forest of Death, which is our newest feature film that is now on Amazon Prime. So really, in these next two episodes, we want to kind of give you an idea of where we're at right now with DBS Films and also where we are heading in the future. And we'll probably do this every single quarter as kind of a little milestone update at where we're at. Again, as I kind of mentioned, we really do see our community as, just as much part of DBS Films, not only when it comes to being part of the movies, but just in the process overall. We've always mentioned those people that are supporting us, even if you're not in a movie or anything like that, we will still 100% look to reward you in the growth and the success of DBS, because being part of the launch team, supporting our movies, all of those things mean the world to us. So really hopping into this episode, I kind of feel like my main focus is going to be, where we're kind of at this point right now. And then the next episode in this week will be, what our plans are for the next quarter and moving forward. So I really think, looking at the past quarter and kind of where we're at just in, 2020 to 2023 now, I think the name of the game is consistency in production. And I think really the biggest change that we've had now is it feels like we have a consistent motion, which has not always been the case for DBS Films.
Yeah, I mean, we hit the ground running in Q1, and our metrics this year were to make 4 movies. That's just pretty much the hard stop. That's my goal that I want to achieve. And if you look at our first quarter, we released a movie, which is Forest of Death. We completed a movie, which is Into the Forest, and we shot a movie, which was The Roger Project. So we essentially took what takes most indie filmmakers 3 years, we did in 3 months. And that's the cadence, that's the rhythm that we want to continue throughout the year. Is a lot of work, yes, but this is what needs to be done. So we had a very successful Q1. And, we're just looking forward to scaling up. And I honestly believe we are set. We are perfectly on time for Q2. We are going to essentially release or get Into the Forest off to distribution. It's out of our hands when they release. It's just going to depend on distribution. We should be able to finish the Roger project for a late June, early July Discord showing. And we're going to film the Bigfoot project. So this is back-to-back quarters that we're having, the cadence and the rhythm that we want to have. And we've never had this before. And it's very difficult to achieve, but I think we have the pieces in place now to really kind of focus this. We have the experience now to understand how long these things take. And we just have the experience to be able to complete these things. And if we continue to do this without burning out for the rest of the year, DBS is going to have 4 to 5 movies shot this year. We're probably going to have 3 to 4 movies released through distribution this year. And we're going to probably have a nice pipeline heading into 2024, which gives us all the momentum that we need to possibly scale up to 6 to 8 next year, to maybe 10, to maybe 12. I don't know. But it gives us the momentum. We're now going to start getting residual cash, which allows us to, scale up to production, pull in more people from the Discord, and, just take the next step as far as like the production value for our movies goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's really awesome to see the consistency element of it. And, I think before we kind of move on from that, I really want to highlight how that is not the case in this industry. I mean, typically you'll see on even like Hollywood movies, 3 to 4 to 5 years, even when it comes to production. Indie films are typically, 3 to 5 years as well, too. Some of the top performing indie producers that we kind of follow, they maybe get 2 movies in a year, or kind of like the high performers, but those are usually like boom and bust type things. I mean, even looking at DBS, when we first started, like, I think our best year was, I think it was like 2018 when we filmed 4 movies. We filmed the Whitlow House, we filmed Into the Forest, we filmed Suicide House, and then we filmed actually we filmed 5, I believe. Yeah, we did. We filmed 5 is what I want to say.
I think Whitlow was the year.
Whitlow was at the start of the year. I'm positive Whitlow was at like January. We did Whitlow in January. Then what ended up happening is we did We moved from Whitlow and we did the found footage. So we did Into the Forest, which was super easy. Then we did The
Into the
Haunting of the
Forest was
Suicide House. Then we did Haunting the Morgan Estate, and we jumped into The Devil in the Room a month after. Now, here is the thing. None of those movies were released that year. So that'll kind of give you an idea of the production process. We had Whitlow released at the end of the year, was the only one that we had. Then in the following year, we had Into the Forest and The Suicide House. And then it took us an entire another year after that until 2020 for Devil in the Room and The Haunting of the Morgan Estate to be released. So while we were filming things, we were not getting to the finish line of those. And, again, sitting on a movie for, 1.8 years is not a process that will allow you to get movies out there. So I think the big difference is we have a very good cadence with film release now, and that's the big difference here. So do you want to talk about how, again, each one of these efforts is such a monumental focus, but we're finally at the point where I would say we're comfortable and confident at the 4 movies a year. Like, that to me is super attainable, especially with our processes now.
Yeah, I definitely think that 4 is attainable. I think we would be in the process of shooting Bigfoot probably next week or the following week if I had the mask. Really, the only thing holding this production up is the mask. Once we have the mask, we are full steam ahead, and I can start booking everything. We get hard money on this project. But I do think 4 is obtainable, and we're just like we're doing our shoots. We're pretty much starting with the hardest projects first, which was the Roger project was an easy shoot, but it's a script that we've never done before, so it was going from ground up. And then Bigfoot is a very technical shoot. This is going to be very difficult. There's going to be a lot of special effects stuff in there, but we're also writing a script that we've never written before. So once again, it's difficult. We're ending the year with Girl in Cabin 13 and Murder House, both of which are going to be 2.0 and a 3.0 version of these movies. So it's easier to write these scripts. We could probably knock them out in a few weeks because there's just a few little tweaks. We've talked about it before on the podcast, what we do differently. We just do differently, and then we cast and we go. As far as like production for those, we're going to scale up production, but because we have an idea of how to do them, I have an idea of how to shoot these movies, it's not going to be that difficult. So we can kind of coast downwards towards the end of the year. So I feel really good with where we're at right now. And there's talks that we're going to sneak in a mockumentary. We'll see what happens. But I mean, there's nothing I think stopping us outside of, if this mask is absolutely terrible, that's going to not be good at all. So I'm pretty nervous, but I think we can get it done. And I mean, 4 movies in a year is really aggressive. Most filmmakers don't make 4 movies in a lifetime, but I really think where this industry is going, what we need to do to be successful, I think we're going to hit the goals. And I feel comfortable moving forward with 4 movies. It is a little bit stressful. I feel a little bit burnt out, but it's nothing that's going to like make me just quit. It's, we're just going to keep going and making movies. It's what we like to do. And, with each one that gets done, putting the movie up to the super fans the other night with Into the Forest, seeing the great reactions from all that stuff, just re-energizes me, and I'm ready to hit the ground running. I want to show them Roger Project, I want to show them Bigfoot Project, and obviously we want to finish with the last 2, with Girl in Cabin 14 and Murder House Story.
Yeah, and I think, honestly, and one of the other pivots that we've made that I think is going to be a reason why these 4 movies will be very sustainable is the found footage element to it. So found footage, as we've kind of mentioned before, we highly recommend it. And we are kind of going down the found footage rabbit hole again. You've probably heard me speak about it. I'm usually not the biggest fan of found footage, although I am getting back to it more and more every single day. So thank you so much, Ashley, for showing me the way. But really the big thing is, when you look at found footage, it allows for a lot more flexibility and it smooths out the production process. One thing that we mentioned with Forest of Death is it took a little bit longer in the production side of things than we really wanted. Whereas now with Into the Forest, we're good to go. And really the only thing that slowed down the Into the Forest production was, or the editing, was the fact that it's Christmas and that Christmas holiday and whatnot. We kind of have a little bit of downtime there too, but mainly it was still working on Forest of Death was kind of the backup there. So what I think you're really going to see now is, again, Forest of Death is out. You've seen the super fan cut of Into the Forest 2.0. Into the Forest 2.0 is going to come out. You're going to see the Roger Project, come out soon when it comes to super fans. Then after that, well, guess what? You're going to see the Bigfoot project. So now things are finally starting to stack up in cadence. So do you want to kind of talk about how found footage, more or less, I would say the reason we are leaning into it is because it's going to allow us to scale up. And then the part now that we've always mentioned is if you can have an option as a filmmaker to make more movies or to make less movies, you should always lean into more movies. Again, you want to make sure that these are better movies, which I highly believe that the movies that we're producing now are better done when it comes to pacing and things like that. But the biggest thing is it will allow us to make a lot more movies. And that's just a huge, that's the biggest metric. I would say the more movies we make, the better DBS is.
Yeah, I think what I'm most happy about, and honestly, the past 3 years since we really, we scaled production down to scale up, essentially is what we did. But I really think the biggest hurdle that we overcame was being able to start an edit and finish an edit within 90 days. And we really hit the ground running hard on January 1st with the edit for Into the Forest. And outside of small ADR stuff, it was pretty much done, on the end of, or the beginning of March, which puts us, or the end of March, which puts us at 90 days almost exactly. And I think that's enough time to get these things done, to get them where they need to go, and to get them off to distribution. So to be able to do that for the first time is really a groundbreaking achievement. Most Hollywood movies take a year. Most indie movies take 3 years editing, and we were able to do it in 90 days. And we've never been able to do that before. I'm trying to think, the fastest one maybe was Girl in Cabin 13, and we filmed that one in, I believe, was it May? When did we shoot? Yeah, it was like May, and that was done in end of August was when we handed that off to distribution. So that was what, June, July, August.
Yeah.
That was 90 days, huh? Maybe it's later. Maybe
it took distribution. It took distribution a little bit to get out in December, but we had a pretty finalized cut in August. What I will say with that one is we started production in May, or I think it was April.
It was early May was when we shot that. So that's 4 months.
Yeah, but what happened is we had a pickup that was a month later, but we already had the rough basically finished. So we were good with that one.
But I mean, even if you look at Girl in Cabin 13, that is the simplest. That movie is simpler than found footage. It's just 2 people in a cabin. It's not very complicated. Murder House, I thought we did a pretty good job, but we had a lot of issues with just pickups and tornadoes and weird stuff happening.
Broke.
Yeah, it's something you probably shouldn't burn a Ouija board. So that probably set us back a little bit.
I still have that Ouija board if anyone would like to purchase it. So we still have it. You can go ahead and reach out to me.
But this one was just smooth all around. And I mean, Forest of Death was difficult. That was just, I knew going into that it was gonna be very difficult. And there was a lot of stuff to just clean up on that movie. Into the Forest had no issues. There was nothing outside of having the actors do a little bit of ADR. There's nothing crazy in there. But it comes down to, I know how to write these things because I edit these things now. So I wasn't digging myself a hole with very difficult scenes. We had done the ritual scene in Murder House, so we kind of knew how to do that. We kind of knew how to do montages. And I just think the only thing that were really cleaned up was just the ending climax scene. But we've talked about that before. And, the big goal for Bigfoot is to just really try and nail that last 15 minutes in a found footage style, because you can really only do so much shaky cam before people are like, what is this? And you don't have that other cutaway. But, spoiler, I think I have a way to do it. And I definitely want to see the improvement from Girl in Cabin 13, Into the Forest to the Bigfoot project. I think the climax is really what we're trying to focus on.
Yeah, I think that really is the case there is, we're starting to get the skill set down there, and we're getting an understanding, when we move into Girl in Cabin 13 or Cabin 14 and then Murder House 3.0, and really those are going to be found footage style too. So that's really going to be the change of the effect there. It's going to allow us to have the smooth production. And really the biggest thing with the smooth production is we're finally starting to get the benefit of what the movie industry is, which is having a catalog that's out there. And I think one of the biggest things is, every single time we release a movie, every single time we have an audition, our community does grow, and it's growing much faster, I would say, than the production of our movies. But now that we have the movies coming out, you have Girl in the Cabin, or Girl in Cabin 13 still has residuals, The Haunting of the Murder House, really anything, prior to The Hateful Eight besides Into the Forest is kind of in a dead man's land because of, the Amazon Prime changes. So it's kind of still just floating out there. But with that being said, we're starting to get these good titles that are going to continue to basically add up. And with the multiple opportunities that are coming up, I think what's really, one thing to mention is you're basically, a year behind almost when it comes to like the movies. Like, we filmed this movie in May. We filmed The Forest of Death next week. And, we were basically 11 months from, start to finish when it comes to actually getting it up and out, or 10 months when it comes to like getting it up and out. Now, again, this one was a little bit slower, but with that being said, what's going to happen is if we successfully execute on all 4 of these movies, that means, in our opinion, based on the timelines that we will have Into the Forest 2.0 out. We will have The Roger Project out. We will have Bigfoot out. We'll have The Girl in Cabin 14 out, and we'll potentially have The Haunting of the Murder House out. 5 more movies on top of Forest of Death, Haunting of the Murder House, Girl in Cabin 13. So now you have 8 movies that are out there for DBS. And this is really what I'm excited about. And I think this is really what motivates us to just kind of put our heads down and work really hard, because the more we build a catalog up, the easier it will become and the better we will get.
Yeah, for indie films, the drop off from, making the money in your first 30 days, once you fall off the algorithm, is pretty brutal. It's like a 90% drop. But then once you kind of hit those residuals of the 10%, they do stick around for a little bit. Like Girl in Cabin 13 is still doing pretty good work, and that distribution deal is not as lucrative as we have for Murder House and the other ones. So it's definitely interesting, and it's a concept that if you can get enough movies in your back catalog, that those residuals can add up and actually be pretty powerful. We could pretty much double our budget just on residuals. Because once again, we're making movies for, essentially pennies. So compared to other filmmakers. So it's like, it doesn't take much to allow us to double our budget. But I think a lot of filmmakers just don't have the luxury of that, because they release one movie and they don't have the luxury of having these residuals, this income coming in. But I am seeing like a spike in Murder House and Girl in Cabin 13 when we release Forest Death. So people are going through our catalog. They're seeing, which movies we've done before and watching them. And this effect has inspired me to try and go find where, Suicide House is, where Devil in the Room is, where Murder or Morgan Estate is. And I'm going to upload them to Tubi and the other platforms that Into the Forest are on. Because that Into the Forest, even though it's been released, for 4 years now, is still up on Tubi, and it doesn't bring in a lot of money, but it still brings in money, allows us to, pay for food for a day. So it's beneficial. I just have to find these things and clean up the audio, because like, man, the projects that we had before were just, they're in rough shape, but we've gotten really good at editing. We've gotten really good at fixing sound issues, and 90% of those issues are sound. So I'm giving myself, an hour each day to try and find these things, clean them up, and then put them up on platforms. So there is a potential that by December, we will have everything past the Whitlow House. I don't know. Maybe Whitlow House will be on there. That one's a little rougher than the found footage ones. But if we can have all those movies on a free platform like Tubi, I do think that the residuals add up and become pretty powerful, as far as flying in more people, paying for plane tickets or small stuff or meals, or just extra locations. Maybe we could bring on more actors from the Discord, have multiple hotels or Airbnbs that we can use. So all this stuff does add up. But once again, I mean, we're looking for any kind of penny in the couch cushions to just keep this thing moving forward.
Yeah, and I mean, really, again, I think one thing to, really highlight, this is still just a full-on side hustle of ours that, ideally we are converting to a full-time thing. So we're not taking a single penny for ourselves, which really helps out. But then the idea is at some point, if we are able to basically make this a full-time, get our full-time focus, which means we will look at, going from 4 movies to 8 movies very easily if we're not doing our day-to-day things and grinding out there. So it's kind of building up that residual bank and doing those things. But I think one thing to, really highlight is, again, where we are at, in my opinion, is our community is ahead of the movie production in the sense that we have a lot of really, really absolutely amazing people. We are growing. TikTok algorithm has not been on our side for a while. But even with that being said, we're still seeing a lot more people becoming more interactive in the Discord. So, again, there's quantity of 18,000, but what we look at is quality. And, the big thing, we had 94 people on the launch team, which is a big increase. We had over 200 verified purchases, which is basically what we were tracking, over 100 from the Haunting the Murder House. But as we're scaling up and as we're developing and as these friendships are forming in these community, we're really getting a stronger bond of DBS. And I think one thing to kind of highlight where we're at, for quarter 1 and everything is just kind of keep an understanding at, we're going to keep moving forward as much as we possibly can, but all of the support we're getting now is so critical because now is when we really need it. And, there's going to be some time in the future, we add up, we have all of these movies and things like that. And it's, I think we'll see a rapid expansion and explosion of growth when it comes to the community again, in the sense of, really 10xing when the word gets out. But right now, it still is really that startup phase of DBS. Like this is, us as Apple in, basically our garage tinkering away. Like not even maybe it's like probably before they even got the garage. This is kind of us, just discussing like, hey, this is what we can do. This is what we'll go. So, I just really kind of wanted to highlight where we were at in the total vision of DBS is, I'm coining this era right now. I would say once we had the, Discord started, that kicked off DBS 0.1. So we're not even at 1 yet. We're at 0.1. But now is when all of the help and the support really means the world to us.
No, it really does. I mean, this is when we're most fragile and we're really trying to make the next step up, and it's within reach now. We understand what we need to do. We have our cadence, we have our rhythm. We understand where we're going to go. We understand what work needs to be done. And I think for a lot of startups, there's just a lot of uncertainty. You don't know where to go, where to move where to steer the ship essentially. But I have a clear vision now. This is the clearest it's ever been. I understand distribution. I understand how to make these movies. I know how to put them out there. And Kel understands how to, build the community and market these movies. I think right now the only KPI that I'm looking at, the thing that I can see as growth is just, how many super fans or how many people will buy our movie and then leave a review. And I really want to try and get that to 1,000 as possible, because that will really push us to the next level. If we get 1,000 people to buy these movies on launch, leave 1,000 reviews, we'll be right up there with the big boys, and that will allow us to exponentially scale up. And it's going to take time to get there. But I mean, I look at that stuff. I look at the reviews and the launch team and how well we did with Forest of Death. But I mean, we just got to essentially, we're only 10xing away from getting to where we needed to go. And that'll come with, bringing more people into the Discord, putting more actors in the movies, and then obviously making higher quality movies to actually get people who aren't familiar with DBS into the DBS universe. But I mean, that is growth. And this is a metric that we can constantly track. I think we had about 100 downloads and verified purchases for Forest of Death. And, I'm hoping to see 120, 150 for Into the Forest. And I think that growth is what we really got to focus on. It's nice to have the 300,000 TikToks. It's nice to have the 20,000 Discord members, but we really need the core fans. And the way we do that is by cultivating a really good community. And then, having outreach, having people come out there and be like little DBS ambassadors and saying, hey guys, you like horror movies, come check us out. It's just the way to do it. Because right now we don't have a huge budget for marketing. We don't have a huge budget to really get the word out other than word of mouth. But honestly, that's how the best companies grow. It's just through word of mouth. We're cool people. We make horror movies that we try to make as good as possible. but we also cast our fans, which is something unique. That's not something that a lot of people are doing. So, I'm really excited. I think we did a really good job with the first quarter, and I'm, looking forward to the second quarter. And I'm really looking forward to just seeing the community continue to grow, the movies that can continue to get better, and, everyone to get better together.
I mean, it really is exactly that. And I think one of my favorite things with the Discord is the ability of tracking. I mean, I think my favorite thing about this is, my brain's already overwhelmed with a lot of things. And I swear I wake up every day and I have things deleted just from memory. And it's almost like when a computer's like, hey, you're running low on data, go ahead and please, pick a file to delete. Well, I think it randomly does it for me. And with that being said, what I love about Discord is it's all at our fingertips. And there's a reason why you get a badge for the Forest of Death launch team. There's a reason you get a badge for the Murder House launch team. And this is because when we're 10 years down the road and we see, oh, this person, you could be a Murder House supporter and then leave whatever, life comes up, anything like that. And when you come back, you're going to have this level of cred to it. And again, we have 18,000 people. We have about 275 super fans. Of that, we were able to get 97 of them to be verified on the launch team. So, I mean, we're already seeing those things work. And it's like, it's all that conversion element to it. My goal is going to be 150 for Forest or for Into the Forest 2.0. So hopefully we can get some more people, in the sense of converting to that level. But the idea, with the 1,000 is once we get to that level, we can do whatever we want. So again, huge shout out to everyone that is, part of the process now. And I think one of the bigger things too is, as we look to go and scale up and grow, I've already been saying this to, people like, hey, it's only gonna be a matter of time. But the people who are supporting us now, specifically the people who are part of our launch teams, you guys, we are going to bend over backwards to just do whatever we can to get you in the movies as soon as possible. And even better, once we scale up and once we have the freedom, once we kind of break through, because again, we're out here trying to take Hollywood's lunch and we only need a crouton to then 100x our budget compared to what they're working with. Then that's when the fun begins. That's when we're going to focus on rewarding our community, because here's one of my favorite things with rewarding the community that then just allows us to have even better marketing, because people learn, oh wow, this studio is working with their community. So the way I see it, everyone right now, we're kind of pulling back on that slingshot, and every single person that helps us moving it backwards, once we hit that critical mass, I mean, I would not be surprised that at some point in time, DBS has a, life-changing month or life-changing quarter or whatever it might be. One deal, one reach out, one notice from the big boys. And again, we're kind of still in stealth mode here. It's not like we're actively reaching out and looking at, because we want to do it organically the way that we're doing, but you never know when that moment's going to be. And man, we're going to take everyone along for the ride when that happens.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's just a process, but I mean, if you look at the correlation between the launch team and the earnings and what we can do production wise, I think if we're saying 10x it to 1,000 launch members, 1,000 really super fans, you're looking at 10xing our movies. So you're looking at 10 times as many actors, 10 times as many locations, 10 times as many movies. Why would you stop? You could scale out instead of up. So we're there, we're close, but I mean, those are the goals that we need to do. But the main thing is we have the cadence, we have the rhythm, we understand where we're going. And now it's just the process of putting in the hard work to get it done. And that's where we're at right now. And looking back on the first quarter, I don't think we could have done anything differently. I wouldn't have done anything differently. We accomplished every single goal we set out to. And those goals are release a movie, finish a movie, shoot a movie. And we did exactly that.
100%. And we are looking forward to continuing to produce. That's going to go ahead and wrap up this episode. Be sure to take a look at our Discord channel online. Also, be sure to go ahead and take a look at the Forest of Death as well. But until then, have a good one.